It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all. It's time once again for the Andy and Rem Show, episode 153. And it's quite a star-studded lineup we've got tonight as we take a journey if you will, into Arcworlde. As I remove the thumbnail from the screen, you'll be greeted by 4 smiling faces. Kind of. Hello there. As usual, we've got Mr. Remington. Blinds are open tonight for anyone who follows that particular saga. Hello there.
Hello, is my mic working?
Yes.
That's good.
We previously established that.
I'm so thrilled to be here with you, Andy. We've done so many shows together, but never have we had 2 more illustrious guests than Annie, of course, from Bad Squiddo Gaming, and now Alex, the founder, creator, motivator, multi-talented, man of mystery, creator of Arcworlde.
Thank you very much for having me on. I am very excited to be here.
Now, rumour has it that you're in the midst of a Kickstarter, so the fact that we have Annie here as our resident industry expert, Kickstarter expert, and overall tabletop miniatures wargaming analyst. She's going to be casting a very critical eye over your campaign. And if there are any holes in there, they're going to be exposed tonight.
And fixed tomorrow.
Yes, there's still time.
Immediately on air, Alex.
On air, literally just me just tacking away at my keyboard for like 20 minutes.
Why is the Kickstarter in the face so bad?
So, I know that Mr. Remington is itching to just ask you a bombardment of questions about all kinds of Arcworlde related topics, as he does own quite a few Arcworlde miniatures himself, as do I now, by the way, which we're going to start by looking at this dragon, actually.
An ancient relic from a bygone age.
It is. Now, when was this thing released? It was about 8 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was actually 2013. So I literally just at the launch of Arcworlde. It was kind of the moment when I realized, like, oh goodness, like, I could actually do this as a job. It was actually, I launched my first campaign when I was just after the first year of my university degree, and I was doing human genetics at Nottingham University, or University of Nottingham, because I was kind of not forced, but heavily encouraged to get a proper job by my parents and my teachers. But that was like the first time I was like, oh wow, like this could actually be something. And here I am 8 years later. Proper job.
From
By the
human.
way, like, am I allowed to swear in this show, or is it better to keep it PG?
Well, we usually try and keep it PG for about 20 minutes, and then somebody tends to slip up.
No, I think we're generally pretty good, actually.
I'm sure Rem's dropped a few in the past, but it's generally keep it fairly PG. I know for a fact that a couple of viewers do have their children watching, and one of them even got a shout out their children last week. Okay. I was very pleased with that.
I should be squeaky clean the whole time.
Your parents tried to get you to get a proper people job, but now are massively supportive and work for you.
Well, work with me. They are kind of an integral part of Warploque. But no, like I wouldn't be able to do what I do without them. They're absolutely wonderful. So my dad is actually our in-house resin caster. So all of our resin is done by ourselves, and very, very, very good. And my mum, she answers customer emails, she packs orders, sorts out all that kind of admin aspect, and I mean, it allows me to kind of put almost all of my energies purely into kind of creation and marketing and all the other kind of more fun stuff, I think. And it means that, they're absolute lifesavers, and they really enjoy being a part of like the wargaming world as well. Like it's really, it's given my dad a hobby and a craft that he never in a million years thought he would get into, because he got into it actually because of Warploque. So I remember it was I think it was my second year at Salute, so I think it was 2014, and I'd just received like a big box of resin casts from one of my resin casters at the time, and my dad was mainly there just to kind of support me and kind of drive me down and stuff like that. He wasn't really involved in the business itself. But he was like, "Oh, Alex, how much did all that cost?" And I told him, he was like, today, I could do that. And within a year, he'd mastered it. And
Whoa, I didn't
it
know
was
that.
amazing. Like, yeah, literally, that's how, like, he got a lot of help from Alan Crooks from White Dragon Miniatures. Like, he gave him, he pointed him in the right direction, but he is almost fully self-taught, and he's an incredibly talented man. Like, and I think he's always been like one of those people that has been a jack of all trades. He's always kind of been good at everything, but with casting, I feel like he's really found something that he has a real gift for, and
Yeah, he's really good.
Now,
he's
guys,
wonderful.
to us, just low on the food chain, we like to buy the miniatures and look at them, paint, assemble them, everything. How important is this caster business? I mean, because how important is that? I mean, we have, we've got ideas for miniatures, and you might even draw them out or just start building ideas. But then, the next step's obviously trying to cast it, right? How big a deal is that?
It's one of the most important choices that you can really make when it comes to producing a miniatures line. A caster will make or break a range, and I'm sure Annie would say the exact same. Like, I mean, for me, like
so it's kind of like me. I'm in the music business, right? So it's kind of like you make a record, and you give it to a record label, and the record label try and promote it, and they do a god awful job, and no one gets to hear it. Is it kind of similar kind of thing?
I would say it's more like a record producer. So you've got the artist, and they come up with the song, but it's how that song is recorded. What materials, and I'm trying to kind of bring that parallel. So it's making the art that is the sculpture into its mass producible state, and it's quality is such an important thing, I find, especially.
So they like a producer, then they take the idea that you've got and they make it a reality. They make it into something physical you can touch.
I think so. Annie, what would you think?
I think it's like if you record a really, really good song, or you've got a really good song, and then they just make a hash of it, and then
if
it
it's
all
mixed
just comes out
completely
terrible. Yeah, and then that reflects back on you, so that people might not have enough knowledge or time or whatever, even just to think, oh, behind all of that, there's actually a good song going on there. So say Alex makes a wonderful miniature like that dragon, and then it's cast bad. All the people are going to see is bad casting. Or even if they go, I think there's a good model there, but I'm not spending a week scraping the mold lines off it. It's all over. That's just, and that's the whole thing where someone can get a bad cast, and that can put them off forever. I always any mini, like even if I'm just in it for a hobby and I'm off buying a mini, I can't resist giving it the one over. So I did do that to Alex's dragon. And it passed.
That is I'm gonna say the sculpt is
very good.
The sculpt isn't quite up to my standard at the moment. It's been 8 years since then, but the casting, my dad did the best with what he got.
No, because you put down the older models, but it's absolutely lovely. But I can understand that being an artist and seeing your older stuff as rubbish, because that's good thing. Because if you saw it as like on par with what you're doing now, it means you haven't progressed at all.
No,
but we obviously all see it as awesome.
Thank you.
But yeah,
But
Rob
yeah.
Huntley, your dad, did a little bit of casting for me as well when I was stuck when I was between casters,
Mm.
and passed my test then as well. So
You know,
Alex, I think we want to hear more of your dad's accent because he sounds like a dwarf Longbeard from up north.
Well, he was born in Leeds. Like my accent has actually gotten a lot softer since I left the north and moved to Nottingham, much to the chagrin of all of my mates up north. But I mean, I'm sure that when the stars align and we can go to trade shows again, and if you do come along to one of the trade shows, you can meet the man himself because he's an absolute lovely gentleman. And even though like he doesn't really know that much about what the games are or anything like that, he calls it talking shop when it's like talking about models and materials and casting and silicons. He's really looking into getting a new type of silicon at the moment for the models, and he gets so excited about it. I love it.
So, Alex, what got you into the hobby? Before you started your own business and you dreamt of Warploque Miniatures, what got you into it? Was it Games Workshop? Was it Lord of the Rings? What was it?
What actually got me into wargaming as a hobby was, do you remember when the Lord of the Rings movies first came out and Games Workshop did those magazines that you'd buy every 2 weeks or something, and it would have like a few plastic models and some like tiny teeny little paint pots and stuff like that. I started off with that. That's what got me into it. I kind of stuck with Lord of the Rings for a while, but I've always really enjoyed kind of converting and things. And back then, like I felt quite restrained because obviously it's very heavily influenced by the movies, and the movies are very influenced by the books. So there's only so much source material to really work with or work within when you're coming up with your own characters. And then when I was about 11, I discovered Warhammer proper for the first time, and like my first army was lizard men, and I would never look back because the dinosaur people. I mean, what else could you even dream of as an 11-year-old boy, having having models of dinosaurs and dinosaur people riding the dinosaurs? It's awesome.
what age did you start sculpting, or do you first sculpt, or what could be called that sort of thing?
So because as I said, I always was very interested in like converting. So there was always lots of kind of head swaps and arm swaps and stuff. And then I started using green stuff and kind of making like cloaks and things like that. And then each time I converted a model, I kind of learned a little bit more, and kind of I would say like I first started fully sculpting miniatures when I was about 14. Like in terms of wargaming miniatures, I mean, I'd always been interested in making models ever since I was small. Like I used to make stuff out of Play-Doh, out of blue tack. Blue tack was a big one, and also like other like air drying clays. Like I had my first kind of job selling models was when I was in primary school, and that was when Yu-Gi-Oh cards were massive, and I would sculpt and paint little miniatures of the characters on the Yu-Gi-Oh cards and sell them to my mates for like £1. I mean, scale, like the economy of the time put into it was awful at the time, but like I think that was probably my first thing. But like, yeah, in terms of wargaming, I first properly get into sculpting about 14, 15.
That sounds very much like you've confessed to a crime there. Taking an IP, sculpting it in those likenesses, and then selling them for commercial gain.
It's all been a sin.
This is like a couple of weeks ago when Rem admitted to, what did you admit to stealing?
I was so poor when I grew up that when I was a kid in the 80s, we'd see these blister packs, and I don't want to talk about it really. It's really bad, man.
I'm talking about like a couple of weeks ago. Where were you? Didn't you steal like a stick or a plant or something?
And was this in the 1880s as well?
Well, yeah, no, it wasn't that. It wasn't that long ago. But you know what? Just to slightly change the subject, sticking with you, Alex, right? I sensed that you had an entrepreneurial and creative spirit, even from a very young age, and you've melded them together to create your own business. But what I don't get is that you went to uni to study science, right? So how did you quit early, or did you finish your degree and just go into art? I mean, how come you didn't pursue art at degree
Mm.
level?
Well, like as I said, I was very much encouraged by like my parents and my teachers to go to university to do science, because like I was always very good at science and I was very good at art at school, and like their kind of argument was like, well, you can always do art as a hobby. You can always do art as a hobby, but you need to make money. It's so difficult being an artist. They're all skint and stuff. Um,
They were right, you
so
know.
I had a
They
bit.
were right, you know.
Yeah. Um, but the thing is like I kind of I decided that what I would do is, so when I did apply for university, I deferred my year. So and then in the year I had off, I actually went to art college. So I was like, right, I'll test it out, see if this kind of direction was for me. And if I don't like it, I can just carry on, go to university as normal. But if I really kind of connect with it, um, I can, I can not go and do my science degree, and I can reapply that year to go and do the arts. But art college didn't really click with me. Like, it was very contemporary art focused, and because I was always very much illustrative in my interests, especially when because I see my sculpts very much as 3-dimensional illustrations.
So
I didn't feel.
was the contemporary art course sort of dousing yourself in mud and rolling around in flowers and then sticking yourself to a wall and then taking a picture of it? Was it kind of that vibe?
Kind of. It was very much of that kind of thing, and, like, I didn't really click with it at all, and I think at that point, I was so enamored with the idea of going to university, um, that I just wanted to just go there, and I was like, "I could just do my models." I actually, my first draft of Arcworlde was submitted for my, art college final piece, and it didn't do that well, unfortunately.
Do you know what? That I had a very similar experience because I did contemporary music at
Oh,
Nottingham
yeah.
University, right? And they
Mm.
all thought my music was too pop. And so I always
Mm.
battled with trying to be more contemporary and more weird. But when I left college, I realized that weirdness, contemporariness, although it did influence me a little bit in a good way,
Mm.
it's a very elite and very small group of people. But it's actually the majority of people actually liked the music I was making.
Mm.
But I always felt on a downer because it wasn't kind of weird and cool
Yeah.
enough, you know. So
No, absolutely, and, like, I did feel like that as well, like, I was quite angry at the time that people who had literally, like, done stuff that I think, I mean, I feel like I've definitely grown more of an appreciation for contemporary art since I was like 18. Like, I know the work that goes into it, but unfortunately at that time I didn't at all. And I was just mad that I poured my heart and soul into making essentially a whole war game. Like,
and then someone
um
else did like a poo in a bowl and got a first
yeah.
class degree for it.
No, I mean, it wasn't a poo in a bowl, but it was something as kind of that you could see as that flippant from an
Yeah.
outside perspective, and it did get a better grade than mine, and I was raging. So I was like, right, sod the arts, I'm going to become a scientist. And then I went to university in Nottingham. You know, just so happens to be the place that all the war games are invented. I mean, I didn't know at the time. I promise it had nothing to do with my choice of university. But yeah, and in my first year, I kind of decided that I was going to. I mean, this was around the time that Kickstarter first came to the UK as well, because up until that point, it was only available for US or people with US bank accounts. So I did a few models, kind of came up with the first draft of the game. I had quite a bit of help with actually designing the first draft of the game, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to chuck it on there, see what happens. And it went absolutely bananas. Like, the
How did
first
it happen though?
Kickstarter got like,
How do you do that? Because like no one knows you, but
I think it was.
you've got this idea, you put it out there, and then did you do a bunch of interviews like this? Did you sort of have a big
Not
promotional
really.
campaign?
I think what it was is that it was still very much hot off the heels of the forum days, where I had quite a few blogs and things in the Warhammer forum, Warseer, like some of the more kind of obscure ones like Chaos Dwarfs Online, the Pyramid Vault, which was the Lizardman one, the Ogre Stronghold, that was another one that
Yes,
I
I like that one.
first played, and that was a really good one. And I think I had quite a big following from them because I did actually try when I first started sculpting, and I did release my first models for Warploque when I was about 17. I couldn't give the models away. Like,
I bought some.
I've been,
Yeah, I wish you gave them to me. I found you on a forum actually because I was typing in
Oh yeah.
alternative halfling models, because
Mm,
I'd started this halfling army, and it's very difficult to get the Games Workshop ones.
yeah,
What I could
yeah.
get, I got, but I wanted other things. And then I saw an article saying, "Oh, Warploque Miniatures have got these halflings," and I think Andy should have a photo actually of some painted ones I've done. I
Ooh.
think, if I'm not mistaken, it's from
Ooh,
first edition Warploque halflings. I may be wrong, but
wow.
you could
So
Let's have,
even
let's have a look at some of these.
pre-Arcworld halfling.
So you've got a vast
I
halfling army, of
believe so.
course.
You can correct me.
Your Arcworlde halflings mixed in quite often with your various other ranges of halflings. So which of these are
Oh
Arcworlde
yeah.
here?
So hang on, let me get it up big on my phone. I know at least the first. It's still a bit blurry on mine, but I can definitely tell that the front
The
one.
resolution.
Oh,
In the top right, when you press it, there's little three dots.
oh, here we go. Quality automatic
Yeah.
is. There we
Yeah.
go.
They tried to
See,
put a
I only
stranglehold
recently
on the
discovered this.
quality.
They're all pre-Arcworld Warploque halflings. All of
Wow,
them.
that chef is my favourite halfling chef of any
Really?
miniature. Yeah, I think it's wicked, man. It's so characterful.
That is a massive
Um,
spoon.
yeah, it's a ladle, Andy. I did get some halfling bowmen as well. I haven't actually finished those,
Mm,
but I thought the first lot of castings are quite difficult to paint, they became very oily. But back then I didn't
yeah.
realise you meant to wash the miniatures, right? I didn't do that,
Mm,
so that
ah,
was a rookie error. But
and
yeah,
that was yeah. I'm amazed you've got them because there are not that many of those that exist. Like I'd say, there's probably about there are some people within the Arcworld community who would cut off their own arm to get those. Like
Tell
they're
Rem
because
that. He'll have them on eBay tomorrow.
yeah, you betcha.
boom.
No, not really. But what I always wanted, I could never manage to get. I wish I could. Was the halfling general on the ram? You had some halfling cavalry out, and I would
Mm.
just love like a regiment of them guys. So maybe we can
Well, I
sort
actually
something out.
I have some halfling cavalry now that are available, and I did do some back in the day, but yeah, like I th- I don't even know. That's the thing. Like we've still got a few boxes and things of like spare casts. I can't remember off the top of my head what we've got, but we do kind some every now and then. Like we do kind of have a bit of a rummage through the archive to see if we've got anything left over. So I'll let you know next time we have another deep dive in and see if we can find some of that stuff for you.
There's
I
quite
Brilliant, man.
remember.
And I would plug it to our many tens of viewers on the show.
I'm looking at the
Free
range of
pens for
halflings
the
here
moment.
now, actually, on the Warploque Miniatures website. I always remember being enamoured with the halfling Thing Flinger just because of the name, but obviously it's a nice model as well. And see if we can
first
find
edition
that
one.
one. See if we can find that one Rem was talking about.
I don't think it would be on the website.
Oh, there we go. Mounted Halfling Captain. Is that the one you were talking about there?
The one it may be similar, but the one I'm talking about had this amazing mustache. That's how I remember.
Oh,
him.
that one. Yes,
Love
I
that guy.
remember. I think we actually do have a mold of him.
Wow. What
So
does that mean? Does that mean that you can produce more on request, or what does that mean? You've got a mold. That doesn't mean that I can necessarily have one now, does it?
I mean, not this very second, but we could make one for you.
Bob's already casting. You can hear him.
Yeah, I can hear
Cranking
that.
it
I
out.
He's lit the forge.
Yeah, pouring the liquid resin in, like pulling a big crank
Now then.
like that.
But I believe we should probably have a quick look at the Kickstarter campaign, just to see if we can generate some additional backers here. And isn't this, let's have a look, how many Kickstarter campaigns have you done now? 10 created. That's got to be up there with how many Bad Squiddo have done. Who's winning on that count?
Oh, I don't know. I think I've done more than 10 though. Just saying.
Ooh.
Well, so Warploque Miniatures are basically Kickstarter amateurs compared to Bad Squiddo then.
You heard it here, folks.
So, orcs. What's the story here?
Thing is just before, I'm just astounded at your output, Alex. It's just phenomenal, man. I mean,
Thank you
just
so
pumping out these stuff, and I follow you on Instagram, but you do loads of other stuff as well. You teach art classes. You've got, I mean, you're a bodybuilder as well, I understand.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
but you're not a layabout. It's fair to say. I mean, I don't know how do you keep yourself motivated, because it's just your output's amazing, man.
In terms of motivation, I think it's a constant fear of failure. Like, I think it's just like, I feel like I've got this motor in me that I just need to keep on churning. I'm not very good at resting on my laurels with things. As soon as I complete something, it's like, boom, right, what's next? What's next? What's next? I don't think it's necessarily a healthy attitude at all. And it's something that I would quite like to address at some point. But it's great for getting loads of stuff done.
So there's essentially, in cinematic terms, there's a bomb been planted on your work rate bus. And if it sinks below a certain speed, then it'll go off.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I get like frustrated if I take like a day off, or if I have like a day where I'm not actively doing something constructive. And it's like, it is very easy to burn out, and I do find myself often kind of having boom and bust periods. I'm sure any self-employed person probably has the exact same experiences. But I think
the anxiety is real. I was
Mhm.
self-employed for 10, 15 years, and it is real because you don't know what's going to happen in the next month.
No, absolutely not.
So you've got to have your wits about you all the time, and any black swan event like we've just experienced can happen at any time. Who knows, right?
No, absolutely.
But most of us, Alex, we paint to relax, right? So if you get burnt out, what do you do to relax?
To be honest, at this point, I don't even know. Because obviously my hobby and my job really do blend, and it's quite difficult to find the divide between the two. At the start of last year, I decided that it would probably be a good idea to try and get some kind of separation between work and pleasure. So I got myself like a separate studio. But then the pandemic happened, and I had to move everything back home again. And ever since, like, I still have my studio. I still do go there, but my home life is very much intertwined with my work life, and especially that a lot of my other hobbies are not available anymore. Like, another thing that I used to do is I used to do amateur theatre, and that was a big part of my life. That's gone. Like, I used to go to the gym a lot. Can't do that anymore. So I just think like, oh, I guess I just do some more sculpting because, and I think that's, especially over the last year, that's allowed me to really up my production, especially since I've been moving to including digital sculpting as well into my repertoire as a direct result of the pandemic, actually. But it's like feel like I have forgotten how to relax, because I am pretty much working 7 days a week at the moment. And like, my partner, my girlfriend is the same. She's works in the arts as well, and she's kind of one of these people that has a very difficult way of like separating art and her job and her personal life, because it is very personal, it is very intertwined. So we're both kind of working ourselves crazy at the moment, and we can't really. I think we've both really forgotten how to relax. And I think obviously when we are allowed to kind of go out again, we have a lot of holidays we need to take to try and like bring ourselves back down again. But yeah, it's been great for productivity. I've got loads done this year.
Yeah.
You picked
Yeah.
up digital really quickly. And what I really liked was that you managed to keep your style. Because I see quite a lot of people that are brilliant pick up digital, and then it all sort of slowly becomes this.
Homogenizes,
Yeah,
yeah.
like they lose what they had in that traditional
Mhm.
sculpting style. So at
Yeah.
first I saw you doing some digital. I was like, oh no,
Oh no,
no,
it's
Alex,
happening.
no. Yeah, and then when I can't actually tell the difference here, which is it's a really good thing that you've managed to get that style and
But
the character of the models into it.
Annie, are you talking about that Alex is designing his ideas on a computer rather than drawing them?
He's sculpting on the computer as well as sculpting
As well as sculpting
traditionally.
by hand.
So all of GW is all sculpted on computer.
Yeah, but how do you don't you want to get your hands on it and you know what I mean and
No,
prod
no,
it and
no, I do, and I think the thing that I'm very, very passionate about is that even though I am, moving into a digital side of my business, I'm very much sticking to hand sculpted stuff for Arcworlde. So all of the Arcworlde miniatures are hand sculpted still, and I'm quite determined to keep them hand sculpted. But in my other ranges, so I do have a digital range now for people with 3D printers at home. Like obviously that has been an entirely new arc of my business that I've been able to add on, and it's completely revolutionized my life, really. With my Patreon, it's the first time in my life I've had a solid monthly income that I can predict. And as people who've been self-employed before in the past, that is like the holy
yeah,
grail.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's
Do you
on top.
feel like oh,
No,
carry on.
sorry, Annie, carry
I
on.
was gonna say, do you feel like the Patreon, the point of doing that digital and the Patreon is enough to sort of be that sort of passive income or sort of just happening
Mm.
alongside in the same way, like, maybe who are considering getting a part-time job for some stability. Do you feel like
Yeah.
that's kind of taken that spot in a good
No,
way? Or
absolutely. I mean, um, where my Patreon is at the moment, it is enough to cover all of my living costs. So rent, food, bills, that's all covered by my Patreon at the moment. So as when I say it's revolutionized my life, it genuinely has revolutionized my life. I'm actually in the process of looking to buy a house with my girlfriend now, which is something I thought I'd never be able to do, at least before whilst I was in my 20s. So yeah, and I think it came about directly at because of the struggles of the pandemic, and especially
So Alex,
other.
people are at home and you've got a patron. So let's say what they pay you, like I don't know, £10 a month, and then you
Mm,
send them a code, and then they can print your design, which is now a code.
pretty
So you,
much.
don't- you and how long does it, I mean, how long does it take you to manifest each miniature idea you have? I mean, couple of hours, days, weeks, what?
Well, I normally try, and it depends. It very much depends on like the thing, because I have a new theme every month. But I try to do all the sculpting for a release in 3 or 4 days. But then obviously there's a lot of post production that has to be done to get a model that is to make it 3D printable. I did used to do that myself, but I've actually hired one of my friends who has a particular flair for it, so he does that for me now. And then something that I do that I don't think any other Patreon does is that all of my models I actually display printed and painted, so people can see the final product.
not
A
just
lot of
renders.
no, not just renders, because I think I mean controversial opinion, but I think it's not a good thing to promote a model on a render alone. I think people need to see that it is printable, that it looks good, as a printed
Yes,
model,
it's
and that
not
it as well as
controversial. You can have such
no, but then like
beautiful renders, and they're like, "Oh, this looks so lovely." And when you know about printing and things, and you look at them
it's
and
like
go,
yeah,
"No,
that
that's not gonna work."
no, like that single like arrow sticking out of that man's back is gonna like snap when you sneeze on it.
Isn't there
That's
a
Yeah,
really
you
da-
gotta
cool
make
that
them
you do
chunky.
isn't there a danger, guys? I mean, I don't want to speak for your father, Rob, who's in the chat. Hello, hello, Mr. Huntley. But isn't there like the worry that if it all goes digital, this like this handicraft, this master craftsmanship is going to get lost?
Well, I mean, I very much subscribe to the hipster theory that the less common an art form gets, the more it is valued and treasured, and the more that people will seek it out. I
Scarcity
think that
equals value.
I think yeah, well, it's more kind of like I think people value old ways of doing things, especially when it comes to the arts. And I think that as the industry progresses, digital 3D printing will become more and more common. But then I think there will be a subgroup within that group that will appreciate handmade stuff more and more and more as less and less people actually do it. So, and this is why I've decided to take a stance where I'm doing both, where I'm doing digital stuff to essentially try and access the growing market, the new technology, future proofing my business basically, while still for my own personal values, but also for the values of my customers, keeping that old craft alive.
Before
You've got the best
before you
of both
revealed that
worlds.
the Arcworlde range was going to remain hand sculpted, I was actually going to play a little game with Remington here, where I was going to scroll down the Kickstarter and let him guess which ones were hand sculpted and which ones were digital.
I'd love
But
to. I'd
unfortunately,
love to play that.
unfortunately, it's a bit late for that, unless he wasn't listening.
No, it's not. It's not too late. Let me play.
Okay, let's play it while we look through the Kickstarter. So, orcs. While everyone's feasting their eyes on these miniatures, do you want to tell us a little bit about the orcs in general in the Arcworlde world?
In general, ooh. So the orcs are a group of beings that kind of exist in the kind of the wilds and the woods of Arcworld. They are a nomadic people. Their kind of specialisms are the brewing of weird and wonderful like drinks, concoctions, and things. And they scavenge the lands. They kind of raid kind of towns and villages within the kind of the wildlands, and they're on the hunts for basically the finest and weirdest ingredients to mix into their brews to make the most weird and wonderful and magical concoctions.
This banjo boglin's got a bit of a Remington vibe going on with the
I love
instrument
that
there.
guy. They're kind of like hillbilly,
Mm.
like redneck orcs,
Oh,
right?
it's definitely
Yeah,
doing a yeehaw.
yeah, absolutely. Like, it is. I've kind of utilized quite a few different kind of influences. So in the first edition of Arcworld, so um, that was the first edition that I released in 2013, and I worked on alongside a few different people. At the end of 2018, I decided that I was going to have a clean slate because up until then, I'd convinced myself that I couldn't write rules, that it was something I didn't have time to do, and I'd found it off to lots of different people, and I was never really happy with the end product because it didn't feel like it was mine. Um, so at the start of 2019, I opened up a new Word document and was like, right, second edition, and I wrote everything from scratch. And I used it as an opportunity to really redesign quite a few things, not just the rules, but the lore as well. So in first edition, the Bay Orcs, well, the Orcs used to be called the Bay Orcs, and they were very much influenced by kind of hillbilly culture. I used a lot of kind of deep South America, Louisiana influences as well. Um, then I did originally kind of take that design aesthetic over to second edition, but in the end, I actually decided to redesign the range. I didn't feel it really reflected the direction that I wanted to go. I felt like it touched on a few issues that I felt I wasn't representing in the right way. So I took some because originally this campaign was meant to be coming out in November, but I postponed it and I decided to take some time to really kind of redesign them, think about them, make them a bit more how I wanted them to be, and to make sure that I wasn't doing them in a way that would cause harm to anybody. Anybody. So with this new kind of redesign, I've tried to stay away from those influences. Not entirely. There's still a few little things, but they're more. I'm trying to make them more kind of fantasy based in fantasy and fantasy lore, rather than based on real world cultures.
I think when you're doing those sort of tropes and stereotypes as well, that some are obviously more sore subjects than others, and you can kind of forget that sometimes because you're so into the trope, and then you sort of step back and go, oh dear. So I was really impressed when I saw that you did that, absolutely. Even though there was people, there were a few people going, "What is this snowflake doing?" I was like, "You leave him alone."
Yeah, like
him alone.
It was
I love that.
A very interesting time.
Alex, I love that vibe, man. You know, I've got some Arabic halflings, you know, and it's every sort of Arabian Night cliche of what Arabs are in a halfling. And I don't, you know, I'm half Middle Eastern, and it's like it doesn't bother me at all. I love it, you know. That's just just me, I guess. But they are.
Yeah, like I think the difficult thing was like I was obviously at the time borrowing tropes from cultures that I don't think I really understood. I didn't have any connection to those cultures, so I felt like it wasn't right for me to utilize them in my work, especially in a way that I think did, as Annie said, play up to stereotypes in a way that wasn't very flattering, and it wasn't very, you know, kind. And like I felt like
I don't know,
right.
Alex. I wouldn't say you're being unkind. Look, these guys are having the time of their lives.
These are the redesign, though.
These are the redesigns. So these are this is the redesign.
I see.
So
tell us through talk us through the big.
So yeah,
guys,
so I wanted to lean. Which big guy? There's quite a few big guys.
The massive, like, war chief there with, you know,
big floaty one.
Yeah, what's that?
Oh, the big floaty one. So he is the leader of the orcs, and he is called the Dream Eater. So he is. So in orc society, you have like the biggest and meanest orc who calls himself the chieftain, and he thinks that he's in charge, but he's not really in charge. It's the Dream Eater who is like the mage of the clan. They are the ones that kind of like pull all the strings in the background. Like they're very devious and they're very Machiavellian like that. They kind of make the other orcs in the clan fight against each other, and they get a lot of their magic and powers from all of these weird and wonderful brews that they make, all of these special fungus and herbs and things, and they actually have the power to warp reality or make people believe things. Very kind of like Scarecrow from Batman situation, where like they can get inside your mind and like feast on your dreams and your nightmares and stuff. And that's the kind of the direction I wanted to go. And it was quite interesting trying to work that into like the rules as well. So I released the beta draft for the orcs, the rules for the orcs a few days ago, and it was a really fun challenge because he's not really a combat based character. He is much more of a support character, and basically an absolute pain in the bum for the opposition, because he is very much kind of casting illusions and like making like the enemies attack themselves or like attack each other and things. And it was really quite a fun design challenge.
Now, there is something here that's caught my eye, and as everyone who's a regular viewer of this show will know, last week we introduced a wildly popular new segment, which is Dice Watch. That's right, it's Dice Watch. Anytime there are new dice out there, we cast an eye over them, readability, coolness, any other factors we think are relevant. Let's rate some dice, shall we? So,
Can I go first?
you can. Orc Faction dice set.
I've got my main dice rage. It's not there in the picture, so I'm hoping that Alex answers this correctly. You ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Which number is the symbol replacing?
6.
Back of the net.
We're good.
Ooh.
Okay, so
Because when you see the pretty picture, you want to go, yeah.
Let's have a look at the
no pictures on the one ever.
the colours of the pips. To me, look sufficiently different from the actual dice colour. The picture,
like,
they are gold.
yeah, the picture on there is sufficiently different from any of the collections of dots.
They look very Chessexy in their nature as well.
The swirly pattern isn't too grainy. It's not going to interfere with the reading of the dice, I think. So I'm going to give these a thumbs up on Dice Watch.
I love these. I love the colours there. Beautiful colours. They look very regal. And
Thank
royal and regal.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a question for you, Alex. Is dice big business?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I dice is something that for me as a creator, like it brings me a lot of joy to have custom dice for my range. It doesn't make me much money at all, but it just feels nice. It feels nice. So I have like my main. Oh, sorry, no, carry on.
Oh, we're talking about feely dice, right? What did you think of the squig dice that Games Workshop brought out? You remember those? Did you ever get to see those?
I haven't actually seen them yet.
They're kind of lumpy and
When did they
bouncy,
come
aren't
out?
they?
Maybe Andy could get up a picture for you. I don't know if you can still get them anymore, but they were really odd, man. I was on the fence about them, but
They're lumpy, they bounce, and they're not that easy to read as far as I can remember. So
Your dice 16 mil, Alex?
I think so. I think they are. They're not small. They're a good chunky dice, and I do have I have a custom set for every faction so far.
Are they all available still? So if
yes,
someone was to come to it now, go to your website, they can find.
Yeah. And I actually made a big decision. So rather than buying in bulk, I actually pay a premium for very small production runs of them.
I know how expensive that is.
Yes. So it essentially means I can order them like to order. So there'll never be a point. They're all made in the UK. It's not like I need to wait for months and months for them to be shipped from China or America or anything like that. My main Arcworlde dice, which are the kind of they're translucent teal with gems and sparkles inside, with the main kind of Arcworlde A on the front. Those are Chessex ones that I do ship in from the US, and they're very expensive. But like with the faction ones, they're mainly for they're mainly like a gift for the players. Like I don't really make that much on them at all. I basically cover my costs, but I just feel like
I think they're the same company. I haven't done dice in ages. I steal it. I did some dice a while back, and I think it's the same company. There's not millions of dice manufacturers.
Annie,
I know how much you paid.
Annie, I first heard about you through Andy because you were known as the dice bag lady.
Dice bag.
Dice
not
bag.
Dice.
That's what I said.
I've never made Bad Squiddo dice. Only made Dice Bag Lady dice. It's something that I keep thinking. Oh, I need to do that again.
I'll tell you about my guy who'll get to do mine because
show me a guy, show to his guy, go around.
You're having a little sneak peek on the ways that we miniature companies do business. There's all these little networks of us tipping each other off to cool people who know how to make things.
Now, just to
I kind of like how entwined it all is, though. I like
it's so incestuous.
Yeah, in a good way.
Alex, we can't have you on the show, Alex, without offering you $1 million idea. As a fellow investor, someone that appreciates.
Oh, hold on. We've got a sound clip for this. Hold on. Here we go.
Remington's Millions.
There we go. You may now speak.
Remington's Millions. That's what we're talking about here. So, Alex, we're going to offer you. So you better put your thinking caps on, Andy and Annie. We're going to offer you $1 million idea for your business. Perhaps you might consider it. Perhaps it's something you've already played out, something that you've already tried, or something you've dismissed, or maybe it could be a new revolution that would have you sparring with the big dog Games Workshop itself one day. Why not? This is where dreams begin. Now,
that's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, but all you have to do is decide whether you think it's a good idea or not, and something you could do. So I'm going to start it off, and that will buy Andy and Annie more time to offer you their $1 million idea. Okay. My $1 million idea for you is this. It's going to be a range of miniatures, okay, that I think has been sorely overlooked in the fantasy world, but dearly loved in the past. Gnomes.
Interesting.
Or gnomes.
Now the question is, which kind of gnomes are you wanting to go for? Are you wanting to go for the more kind of D&D clockwork technical gnomes, like World of Warcraft style gnomes, or your kind of living in your garden, wearing tall hats gnomes?
No, a little bit steampunky, a little bit, a bit of bumbling, a bit sort of inventors, illusionists, more like the sort of tricksy magician.
I actually already have a model like him. Already. Andy, would you be so kind as to go onto the Imperials section on the Warploque Miniatures website and show a character called the Tinkerer?
Love it.
Here we go. I hope he's near the top.
You see,
we've got some more faction dice there. They look nice and readable as well. Just a little side note. Oh, here's the Tinkerer.
You're tinkering.
Here we go. Tinkering away. There, look at that.
Oh,
cool, man.
He's doing some good tinkering.
What's in his magic box there? Is that like a clockwork chicken or something?
So there are creatures in Arcworlde called grifflings, which are like griffins, but mixtures of pigeons and cats rather than eagles and lions. And they're kept as pets. They're also like pests and things like that. But this guy has a clockwork one that's one of his like. So he is the Imperial's mage in the game, and rather than him like casting spells and stuff like that, he has a chest of wonders that he activates, or he can choose to activate instead of spells. So if you can see, the chest actually has little legs that follow him around as well, and he can also like fix friendly characters' weapons and give them buffs and bonuses and things as he like tinkers with their like equipment.
Alex, speaking of bonuses, I'm going to offer you a second, not $1 million idea, but billion dollar idea.
$1 billion idea.
$1 billion idea, and you're going to give that away live on the air.
I never got $1 billion idea. This is an outrage.
This is an outrage.
Arcworlde, the Netflix series.
It is interesting that you say that, because I am actually in the process of working on something quite exciting, not quite of that ilk, but something in addition to what I'm working on at the moment. So hopefully in about June, I will be releasing the first Arcworlde comic.
Oh.
So I have been working with a very, very talented comic book writer called Mike Garley. He's done work for quite a few big names, including Adventure Time as well. And we've been working together on the first issue of a comic series set in Arcworlde. So that's been something I've kind of been keeping under wraps for the past few months.
Exclusive?
I did mention it in my stream on last week. I haven't officially announced it on any of my social media properly yet, but because it's still very much it's early, definitely early.
I mean, we could do a
in
whole
news, but
show just on that idea alone, easily.
We know it's only a very short leap from a comic to a Netflix series, so who knows next year what we could be talking about.
I'm getting excited, Alex. I'm so glad to be on this trip to billionaire status with you.
So do we get to put across our $1 million ideas now, or are you going to have like a third and a fourth one?
Oh yeah, there's a couple more ideas to go. Go then.
Okay,
I've got one.
Okay, you go first. Go on.
Well, me and Alex have our own secret $1 million idea.
Are you going to share it?
No, because it's currently on hold. Because I need a bit less than $1 million first for it to work. So Rem, who spends every episode saying that he's going to invest in Bad Squiddo, but I don't know what I'll invest. You could invest in mine and Alex's $1 million idea, which we'll tell you after the show.
Will I need $1 million?
It would be really
it'd be
good.
pennies for you, Rem. Pennies.
I would.
You've probably got it in your pocket right now.
You probably just shave off the interest on your investment portfolio from last week, and you could do it.
Exactly.
If you two come up with, go on. If you come up with a presentation to me, I'd more than happy.
Yeah, we've got a wicked idea. They exist in my head as well, and they look really cool. And then I remembered that I don't have any money, so Remington.
So, how about some more content for the audience now? So, here's my $1 million idea. So, Arcworlde, for the halfling range, a halfling giant.
Ooh.
How about that?
So like the world's biggest giant, so they're just the regular sized person.
Well, it's bigger than a regular sized person. If you think of, for example, the BFG, quite a small giant, all the other giants are huge. So I'm thinking that kind of size difference. So bigger than a person, smaller than a giant. Maybe a tiny bit bigger than, let's say, an ogre. But clearly very halfling in features, so very hairy feet. So perhaps he's got a special rule where the enemies can become entangled in just the vast growth of the toe hair.
Would he be extra fat? Because, we know halflings like to eat. So what would be the appetite of a giant halfling?
Who's going to stop him eating all the food, really?
True. So he wouldn't be one of those six-pack giants.
It does sound like you're describing a troll. Yeah.
Maybe he'd get very angry at being mistaken for a troll. I think there's money in that.
If he had the old they have the cooking thing on their head, the pan on their head and the spoon and stuff like that. You get those sort of iconic things that make them larger. So there wouldn't be a large pan, but maybe it'd be like crafted together out of other bits of shields and things into it. Like
a giant halfling sushi chef.
Or like the spoon's made out of a tree trunk or something. But it's obviously it's got the tree ends, but then the spoon bit. I am going to make that.
It's a race to see who's going to make that first now.
I won't.
Well, Alex, so which do you think?
Would win.
Which $1 million idea are you going to go with? The one that Annie didn't say, the halfling giant, or Arcworlde, the Netflix series? And gnomes.
I think I'm going to go for the Netflix series. I think it would work very well as an animated series. I don't think it would suit live action that well, because I find that live action goofy fantasy is often a bit cringe. So I think like a really nicely animated, not. I'm trying to think of like the right kind of animation
you just need
style.
Like such a massive budget, don't you? If it's like real action, it's just
like
ridiculous.
Sean Bean in it.
But I don't want to leave Andy out because I've been a bit mean to him today. So I'm going to pitch to you, Andy, as one of the voices in the animation, because he's got such a great voice. He can do an amazing witch hunter, a narrator. He could do anything you want. A wise old wizard.
Remington is now my agent, by the way.
Is he going to take a cut?
He is not. He already takes a cut from this show.
So I'm going to say,
Remington's got the nicest backdrop on there because he's the one rolling in it.
so Rem would be investing in the show, the show would then pay you and then he would take a cut of your salary. So in reality, he's just paying himself.
In reality, it sounds like some kind of tax avoidance scheme.
I think we've got
that's
this.
one of my record deals that I had in the past was literally that. It was a millionaire's tax avoidance scheme.
SWAT team crashing in through that window now.
When they get hold of all this footage, Ren, you're over. You need to invest quick before this happens.
I can hear the stomps of like the police coming up your stairs.
You need to.
That'd be good. That'd be good.
Grab your minis and run.
You need to quickly transfer all your assets into somebody else's name, maybe under the Bad Squiddo umbrella.
But you know what?
Then we can work on.
Annie, I will tell you because I know I will be good to my word one day, right? It's just that the more time that goes by, the more I can invest. Is all I'll say.
Thing.
But when you really need
building
it,
up capital.
Yes, but when you really need it, just let me know. All right.
I think that's what she was saying earlier. That they really need it now. Yeah. So open your wallet.
No.
Literally, Annie and I have got this idea on hold, ready to go.
Yeah, it is.
We'll do our Frankenstein pitch to you after the show.
You'll like it. It's awesome, actually.
I'd love that, and Andy's welcome to be there. Although he's he's the voice.
Andy knows.
Oh, he knows about
Andy
it.
knows. Yeah.
Andy... Okay. Cool. Andy approved.
Yeah.
I know everything. I've got my ear to the ground in this industry.
Yes. Very exciting.
He's got his fingers on the pulse.
Andy, I mean, I just feel so far away from you in Leicester, right? And, not the place.
The wildlands of Leicester, all those miles away.
Yeah, it is the COVID capital. That's what it's been rebranded as.
Whereas in Nottingham, all you have to do is just lean out the window, and you can hear like all the different miniature companies, all their secret meetings going on. If you point your ear in the right direction, you can pretty much hear all of them.
Basically,
Here's a question for you: if all the independent miniature companies, like yourself, like Bad Squiddo Games and many others, right? If they all banded together under one umbrella, let's just call it Remington Industries, just for
just
this sake.
Yeah.
Would we have the firepower to compete with a behemoth like Games Workshop?
No.
No, it'd just be a disaster as well. Like, you don't know these people, Rem.
We're definitely
Alex, and a couple other cool people, maybe.
It would be a lot like the whole Storm Area 51 thing, I think.
Because you have to consider what each of us would bring to the table, like because within the sphere, we'd all be competing against each other for space, for like social media attention. Like if we were going to a trade show, we'd all be bickering about who gets to be furthest towards like the door.
Artist egos.
Where's the prime spot?
I don't believe it's by the door.
Where's the prime spot in an exhibition?
So some people want to go by the door,
it's not.
But I don't think it is, because I think you go in, you go past a bit first.
Yeah.
I think if you kind of like barely near the door, but in a little bit.
Yeah, you don't buy anything right at the door, do you? You want to get out the way so you're not blocking the entrance.
Yeah, you're like, I've queued, I need to get past.
Yeah.
And then you go, I'll go back to that. And then
you want to get out of the hot gates.
Here's another $1 million idea. Near the toilet, right? Everyone's going to go to the toilet at least once, right? And they might be waiting for their partner or the kids or whatever to come out. And they're waiting, they look around, what do they see? They see Bad Squiddo Games there.
Literally, right? my best year ever at Salute was when I was put near the disabled toilets.
I had a pretty good Salute actually next to one of the snack bars. Because there was an endless queue there, yeah.
While you're in the queue, why not look at this fine miniature range?
Then I do. I've got a trophy actually for my toilet advertising.
Oh, I remember that.
Yes.
I remember that. Yeah.
So I will occasionally. I don't do it too much now because I think, it might be cliched. But occasionally, I'll spam all of the toilets, all by the urinals, the inside of the door. Do you want some minis? Call this number. No, I've got very tailored signs actually for whatever you may be doing as you're looking at the sign. And you think, I'm going to go to see Bad Squiddo after this.
I mean,
And
guys,
one show I did it on full, and I got an award with a smiley toilet on it at the end. Which was the
Amazing.
best thing ever.
guys, when I hear you talk, right? When I hear you talk, I was going to say one of my questions was going to be, right, if someone from Games Workshop approached you and said, like, Annie, Alex, we love your vibe. Come and work for us. We'll look after you. And I was gonna tempt you both with that question, but I think I already know the answer. I think you've become too big. You've become too independent. There's no way they could tame a wild artistic spirit like you two anymore. It's like you've graduated, and now you're no longer Paduans. You're equal, almost equal, maybe.
I've been self-employed for most of my adult life.
Well,
I do occasionally think,
like Jedi sculptures. It's amazing.
I've only ever done Warploque. I mean, I dabbled a little bit. I think I worked for a bar for a month, like 3 weeks, because I thought I can't just be sat in my room making toys. I've got to be out there and do something interesting. I stopped within 3 weeks. It's like, this is worse than making models. I was a PT for a few months. For a similar reason, I thought it'd be good to kind of have a second career working at the same time as the models, just in case one didn't work out. I had another one to kind of balance it. But once again, I was like, nah, I much prefer making models. Glad I made that choice, because being a PT at the moment would be rubbish.
Well.
But yeah,
me and Andy occasionally, go through phases of running, and it normally stops because of me. We're just about to start up again, and you could be our personal trainer, and you could chase us with a big branch, and that would work.
I'm thinking like one of the great like Egyptians, like slave drivers, like making the pyramids. Like I'd wear one of those like golden turquoise like neck things and a big long hat like that, and be like, what?
Yeah, you could have a chariot.
Yeah,
awesome. We'd pay you like $5 an hour or something.
I'd do it for free.
Oh, you pay us.
Yeah.
Let me so Alex, like let's fast forward.
Actually,
50 years time, I can almost envisage you as a sort of a Geppetto who's building toys, miniatures, except they actually exist in real life, like the Pinocchio or something. Can you ever see that happening?
That's a terrifying thought.
But you turn up your nose, Andy, right? But who'd have thought that you'd have Netflix 100 years ago? You'd never have thought that, right? But who knows?
Do you think there'll be the technology to instill sentience into miniatures in 50 years?
Possibly
take over.
Possibly in a 3D world.
Yeah, I think the best job I can hope for in 50 years' time is carving miniature effigies of whatever warlord we're living under in the post-apocalyptic hellscape.
There you go. So you've got your backup career carved out for yourself there.
Literally, absolutely. And like, I imagine myself being like, almost like a retained artisan, like in the days of yore, when there would be like great bishops or like rich families where they'd essentially employ an artist to live in their house and like paint pictures of Jesus and their children. And I can imagine myself doing that in like a post-nuclear hellscape where I'm just carving effigies of like whatever horrible person we are living under the tyranny of.
The CEO of Remington Industries, I think it's going to be.
It's going to be
do, like one of those history villages where you have people whittling and things, and they go, "This is how they did in the day." So when everything is entirely digital,
like in the before.
Yeah. What is that man doing? What is he doing? That is green stuff.
Green stuff.
Now,
it'll just be like in the massive mega corporation wars between Remington Industries and Amazon. Just be like you and Mecha Bezos fighting each other.
Now, before we get too off the rails here, and the show has to end. I suppose we should probably finish looking at the Kickstarter campaign a little bit. How's that for an idea?
I'm nervous because you guys told me that Annie's going to be giving a critical eye over my work, and
maybe even 2 critical eyes.
Ooh, I was hoping to do a pirate impression, but
you still can.
That
window is still open.
No, we're not getting it. We're not getting it.
Choosing not to now.
Not even like a Yar matey.
No.
Okay.
No.
So
I dreamt too big.
Marsh Hydra. Sell us on it.
So, the reason why orcs have hydras as pets is to guard their camps, because one head is always going to be awake. You'll never sneak up on a hydra. They've got eyes everywhere. So I thought that would be quite a fun creature to have as their. So every faction has like a heavy, which is like the kind of the bigger, more powerful character in the force, and I thought a hydra would be quite good, especially for like if they do live in this very swampy climate, like taking inspiration from the Liurnian hydra of Greek myth. Like they do kind of like came from like a swampy, marshy area, so I took that inspiration to make this guy. But I wanted to make it a little bit more kind of goofy looking rather than like slick and vicious. So he's a bit dumpy. Some of his heads are a little bit dumpy. I imagine them in varying stages of growth. So I
got the wise old
you see
head.
like there's the wise old heads at the top, and then they've got the little baby heads at the bottom, and then there's also like kind of little nubs that are just about to grow up into new heads.
Now,
it's brilliant, man. I mean, look, if anyone hasn't yet gone on to Arcworlde or Warploque Miniatures Kickstarter or website, there's many other factions, isn't there? We haven't even mentioned the Albinonians.
I'll have a quick look through all those in a second. But before we talk about this Swamp Wyvern, I should just point out that we have neglected the audience a little bit in this show because it's been such a wild roller coaster ride of emotions and excitement. But not only has there been one master caster in the audience who may well be related to someone here, we've also had another supportive parent in the chat earlier as well. I don't know if Annie noticed that.
I did, yes. Yes.
So if you want to give your mother her weekly shout out.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Mum. Rem and Alex, if you could also.
Hi,
She's big fans of Arcworlde.
Hello, Mum. Do you know I get ever so jealous when I see your parents being so supportive. But the support I got from my mum is Remington. Why are you always playing with these little men? That's about all I get.
That wasn't even about the hobby, but Alex's whole like parental trade show thing kind of inspired, I think, my mum helping out. And then she met. I think the mums met at Vapnatak once.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the wargaming mums. Like, I feel we like you and I, Annie, are incredibly lucky to have our parents so supportive, and I hope that they have a really nice time at shows.
They could all, when we go back to shows, we could set them up and they could all hang out. Oh no, actually, no. I have to shut my mum up sometimes.
Exactly.
No.
Now, shall we have a look at this Swamp Wyvern?
Yes,
this is quite a hefty chunk, isn't it?
He is a chunky, thick boy.
I like the shroomage.
Thank you.
Love it. I mean, this could double up as a Jabberslife, couldn't it, or a bog toad or something, right? Wicked.
So in terms of the way that his kind of lore, or also the way he plays, is that the mushrooms on his back are hallucinogenic. So he can essentially uses them as a way to protect himself by blasting out spores and basically turning anyone who tries to attack him and makes them insane. So it's actually one of the things behind the campaign that I'm going to be releasing with the swamp wyvern, which is called the Wyvern's Trip, and it's going to be basically you as the player are going to try and hunt down the wyvern to collect these like mushrooms that are incredibly valuable, but in doing so you kind of succumb to the weirdness of the effects of the mushrooms. And so I'm quite looking forward to introducing some really weird and wacky like level design and some weird special rules that can really like just introduce a really odd mechanic to the game.
A solo mode for pandemic-proof play. Sounds like a winner.
Exactly. So there is actually a solo mode. There's actually a solo mode for Arcworlde at the moment. It is in its beta stage, but one of the guys who is quite active on the Arcworlde group has played over 180 solo games over the past year. He's a bit of a rules wizard, so he's like one of those people that likes to kind of really get into the guts of a game and try and break it. And he's loved it so far, which I've been relieved about. So yeah.
Now we've got some concept art, it appears, here as well.
I like these a lot.
Undead.
Very cute.
So these beast folk, a couple of weeks ago actually, we were looking at some of the really old school beast men, where each one they weren't a particularly uniform set. It was just there would be one that was like a camel, and here's another one that's like a frog or something. So we're very much on that train at the moment. The unique beasts.
I love these guys. It reminds me a bit of sort of Wind in the Willows vibe, you know?
Yeah, they're cute. I like them.
No, absolutely. And like, so like my beast folk, they're all kind of very Scottish themed in terms, excuse me, the way that they're dressed and their armor and equipment and things like that. But as Andy said, like they are all different animals. Like it's reflected in the rules as well. Like you kind of have your base stat, but then you can like add different like almost like body parts onto them, so like long legs, or if they like got horns, or if they're like particularly like have certain features. So I did it as a way to obviously like give the player a lot of customization choice, and like there's a lot of customization in the way that Arcworlde second edition works, but it also gives me carte blanche to basically future-proof any model that I make, because as long as I can fit it with the various combinations of the items and equipment and features of the range, it's unlimited. I can make models forever, basically. Forever.
You've got some good future-proofing going on. I like this. I think
Thank you.
Your mix of doing the digital and the traditional is also very good, as I do often wake up in sweats going, I should do digital, I'm an old man now, I'm the old man. So
I'm the
very
old
jealous
man.
of that.
Staying ahead of the curve.
You live long enough to see yourself become the old man.
No, it's the kids who are wrong.
So yeah, bandits.
Yeah, undead bandits.
Oh.
I think Undead Bandit kind of speaks for itself.
Undead Bandit.
Wouldn't like
so like so my in first edition they were very pirate themed. So I made all the characters pirate themed and stuff like that, because I was like super into pirates at the time, like a big fan of Pirates of the Caribbean, and I really liked the way that their undead was done. So like in Arcworlde, the undead, they're not shambling monsters, they're fully there mentally. Like they just wake up one day and they're like, oh, I'm dead. Well, better crack on then. So they kind of they almost enjoy being undead. But the actual range itself didn't really do very well, other than the orcs at the time. They were the worst selling faction, and I thought, well, maybe it's because they're pirates, but it's a land-based game, so it's in this medieval castle. So for second edition, I decided to make the design choice a lot more broad. So rather than them just being pirates, I designed them to be, I called them the Undead Raiders, so that any kind of outlaw characters living on the fringes of society and stuff like that. Because another thing that, in the lore, is that if you lived in a world where you knew that there were undead, you would cremate every single body. But these are the remains of people who kind of died out either in war or out in the fringes where they weren't found, and that was how they were allowed to come back in one piece, basically. So for second edition, like I'm really going for like the kind of 17th, 18th century highwayman vibe, because a lot of the game is based in like kind of this massive no man's land forest, which is kind of in the middle of all the kind of the civilized countries and stuff, where there's no one really in charge and there's monsters and things, but there's like tiny little kind of settlement towns dotted throughout. So having them as like robbers and thieves and highwaymen in that environment where they were essentially allowed to hide from society kind of made sense.
Now, because I'm sure we're getting way past Old Man Remington's bedtime, let's whiz through some of this a little bit, because some of these are still locked, but of course anyone backing the campaign at this point can aid in unlocking some of these magnificent creatures. So we've got an orc mounted brute there, which looks like some kind of a pig is riding on there. Like a pig crocodile vibe.
Is a hippocroca pig.
Oh, I was almost there.
So this guy's actually based on. It's kind of like an in joke from a few of my friends up in York before I moved down to Nottingham. It was a kind of it was like I can't actually remember the context that it came up, but yeah, they had this thing about hippocroca pig, and it kind of lay dormant in my mind for years. And then when I was trying to come up with an idea for the mounts for the orcs, I thought, I don't want to do like boars or something, because like it's been done, but like it kind of like clicked a remembrance of the hippocroca pig, and I thought, well, they are meant to live in swamps and things, so it would kind of make sense to do a kind of a chimera like mix of all these weird creatures. So, and this little chap is what kind of ended up out of the sausage grinder that is my imagination.
What colours do you see him as?
I want to pose you both a question. What if a sort of a franchise approached you and said, we'd like you to design the miniatures to our movie or arcade or comic book series?
They don't approach you, Rem. If you approach them and then they say, yes, that's fine, that'll cost you £1 million.
But I think
okay, yeah, but
if that did happen, I would probably want to get a very good lawyer first to make sure that every single T was dotted, because especially when you're working with these ginormous like mega corporations, if there's a chance that I'm not gonna use the F-bomb because this is a family-friendly show, but if there's a chance they're going to fudge you up, they are going to fudge you up and not care a jot about you at all.
Yes, but I mean, I think you could both take comfort that in Remington Industries, we have the highest caliber lawyers. Nate, someone who visits this show regularly, Mickey Genver, she'll deal with all those concerns. But my real question is, if there was a franchise that you would, which one would interest you most? Which one would make you think, oh my God, I'd love to do that?
Do you know is my secret? There's one that I really want to do and may actually, in my lifetime, achieve. But it'd be one where I have to have a little bit of spare cash, because I don't know how viable it'd be, because it's a very niche thing. So obviously it's not anything huge like Batman or whatever, where it'd cost a fortune. It's a license that I feel I would probably be able to afford at some point, but would be a bit of a risk, but want to make, because I kind of get a bit grumpy. I understand it's business, but when people get licenses that they're not really that into, but it's just a money churn, they kind of like slap a license over something and they're not into it. I much prefer it, and it's very clear when the people who are doing that are such big fans, and that's a really big deal for them. So it's a very niche thing that I would just I can see it. It's all in my head. So I might actually do it. So I haven't. I might tell you.
Oh.
Yeah. I might say.
Annie,
I can't say the things. I can't say them out loud, because then It's that like, oh, someone will go, that's a wicked idea. I've never even heard of this
Yoink.
thing, but I've got the cash, so I'll just go do it. Like,
This is why Annie is able to be the ultimate industry insider, because she doesn't just come on shows like this and tell all the industry's secrets to the world.
I absorb it all and then make knowing nods.
I think Annie is on the right track there, because she has learnt from her many years of mistakes on this show. Alex, if you didn't know, I have revealed so many $1 million ideas that have been manifested by other people.
Really?
So, you know, I don't mind. I'm a giving sort of person, and I always take comfort in the fact that at any moment a new $1 million idea could just appear from the ether, or you know. So it doesn't really bother me. But perhaps you could answer the question: which franchise would you love to create a miniature line for?
Discworld. Easy. Like, didn't even need to think twice about that one. Like, Terry Pratchett has been probably one of the biggest inspirations for Arcworlde. I love his work. I love the work of the more modern artist, Paul Kidby. His style has been incredibly influential to the style that I draw and sculpt in. So yeah, Discworld would be amazing. In terms of something a bit more niche, I'm not too sure. I'd have to have some time to think about that.
Has
I'm
Discworld
trying to
been
think.
done before? Has someone tried to do a miniature line?
Micro Art Studios have the official license, and they're very nice.
And they
They're
do a
quite
very
large.
good job. They
They're
do
like
really,
a 35 mil.
yeah.
Yeah, they're really nice.
Yeah,
On
they're
this
really nice. I'm
Kickstarter,
not sure.
carry on.
No, you carry on.
I know, because
I
I'm
don't know what
looking
I
at
said.
this on the screen, although I keep trying to scroll it. I can't because it's on Andy's computer. What is this? These add-on stretchies that say locked, but then they have a day by them. What does that mean? So some are locked day 9, day 11.
Yes. So, in my Kickstarter experience, I'm sure Annie will attest to this. What usually happens is that you have an intense peak of backing and funds at the start, and then it just plateaus,
And then
and then boom, at the end. And if you are, you know, a lot obviously as a Kickstarter creator, you rely on social media hits, you rely on kind of buzz to get people excited and share and put a bit more money and stuff like that. And I find that
Kickstarter
if you're
algorithm.
exactly, whereas if you're relying purely on total based stretch goals, if you're plateauing, they're not getting unlocked, so you have no content, so that algorithm isn't being tickled. So in addition to the total based stretch goals, I do day based stretch goals where I essentially release models for all of the previous factions on set days throughout the week, throughout the campaign. People know when they're going to be coming up, so they'll know to look at when their faction comes up. It adds more miniatures on there, which not only does it generate more interest on social media, but it gives people more things to buy. So that in turn encourages the
Raises
total
pledge.
And by the way, audience, if you would like to tickle our algorithm, then feel free to like the video and leave all kinds of comments.
Subscribe.
Yeah, do
Ring
that
the
as well.
bell.
Like and subscribe. Hit that bell.
All those things. Annihilate the like button so that you can never like another video.
Yeah, smash in the screen of whatever you're watching
Put
this
your
on.
finger through your phone like that.
So, Alex, I have one more $1 million question for you.
$1 million question now.
Have you enjoyed yourself, and would you come back?
Absolutely. I've had a lovely time. Like, it feels really nice to actually talk with like fellow miniatures people as well. I think this industry, especially over the pandemic when you're not going to shows, we feel very isolated, especially when you're like one man kind of people, like Annie and myself and stuff. So like it's been really good to kind of not only just talk about obviously just in general, but to actually specifically kind of gripe about the industry that we're in and stuff, and kind of share tips and tricks. Like it's nice. It's like this. I imagine this is what networking kind of feels like, but with a lot less kind of fun and like tickling jokes.
I'm scrolling
That's why I
through.
like coming here. It's a bit of a hangout as well,
Yeah,
especially when we're not doing anything social. Let's have a nice little buzz afterwards.
Scrolling
Yeah,
through some of
it's
the
really
extra
nice.
stuff here, if people want to have a look, obviously they should be on the Kickstarter page, preferably after the show rather than clicking off this and heading over there.
That's
But
what
I mean,
tabs are for.
at some point in the future, are all these miniatures, will they be available? Or will they be always locked and because I've missed a certain day or something, you know?
Yeah, don't worry, like they're not going to be. There's no Kickstarter exclusives on this particular campaign because I know that times are really tough at the moment. People are tightening their belts, particularly things with shipping to the EU is very difficult. So there are some of my customers that aren't back in this campaign that normally would, and I feel like it would be disingenuous to them to essentially gatekeep content. So I decided that all the models that are on the part of the campaign you can pick up later on if right now isn't the right time for you.
And where could we do that? Where can we pick them up from?
On the Warploque Miniatures website.
now,
Linked in the comment, linked in the description of the video.
Link in the comments, link in the description
Indeed.
of the video.
Oh,
now, last week, everybody will remember that What the Hell Is That was the following image. There we go. Everyone remembers that iconic Home Alone scene where the Games Workshop flames sprouted from the burglar's head.
my favourite bit.
And I think those of us familiar with What the Hell Is That know exactly who guessed it correctly immediately after the show. Would anyone like to guess who it was?
William.
Yes, it was. It was William again. And he told us that it was Skull Taker. The flame on his hand.
Oh, that's good. This guy's good.
Yeah, so tune in right at the end of the show for this week's What the Hell Is That and see if you can dive in there before William. I haven't seen him in the chat tonight, so maybe it'll be open for someone else to win it this week.
They'll appear now. Be like, I'm there, I'm ready, I'm ready.
Yeah, so that'll be
Finger
coming
on
up
the keyboard.
very shortly.
Yeah.
So, does anyone...
That's amazing because like you'd stretched it out as well. It wasn't even in the right dimensions.
It was some fine work.
Mm.
So, does anyone else have anything they would like to say before we wrap this one up? Any words of wisdom out there to the masses? It looks like Annie's got something.
Got to say my claim to fame that I was one of the first people buying Alex's models before Arcworlde. Before Rem. Off the miniatures forum. Not the
You must
miniatures
be
forum.
really old. You must
The
be really
Warhammer
old then.
forum. I'm well old.
Warhammer.
I think I'm like 2 or 3 years older than Alex, but I remember first seeing him posting like, "Hello, I've just made some sculpts, and I'd like to sell them at university." I was like, "Oh, boy!" And it's like, "Oh, they're really good. Damn him!" And bought some stuff. And then I was excited because I kind of like it was back when I was kind of finding anything that wasn't GW, and there's still that world opening up of independent miniatures companies.
Yeah, there
So
was
that was
that
one
kind
of
of.
the first I ever bought.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it was definitely an
Okay.
interesting time because, like, obviously, Games Workshop wasn't doing so great at the time, and like, all of these tiny little miniatures companies started to spring up around like the end of the noughties and like the start of the teens, and like, we're still here, Annie. We're still here. A
Yes.
decade later.
Yes.
It's funny
It's
because
exciting.
the biggest.
Oh.
Oh, go on, Alex. You got a question?
No,
Go on.
Rem, you go first. You go first. Mike, wait.
I was going to say, coming back into the hobby exactly at that time, a lot of the criticisms of Games Workshop was that they didn't engage with their customers. They were very much like Willy Wonka, locked in this chocolate factory. And I kind of like that, but I can understand that the world was changing and people needed more interactivity, communication and updates and stuff. And Games Workshop was pretty slow off the mark in engaging with the community, and that
Definitely.
led to 4 or 5 years window where guys like yourselves could come in and establish yourself, right?
Absolutely, because we had that very personal like touch to what we did, and I think people really enjoyed kind of seeing the person who made the models and actually being able to chat to them and interact with them. Like, I think there's something I think that's another reason why Kickstarter blew up at the time. I mean, this was before it just became a pre-order system, basically. Like, people genuinely loved being a part of something and seeing a range and a creator grow and have that human connection. And I think, Games Workshop have definitely caught up. Like, they're really on it with their community stuff right now, and it is really, really good to see. Like, I'm not one of those salty people that like to see Games Workshop do badly, because at the end of the day, they are the teat that we smaller companies suckle upon. And if Games Workshop is doing well, then we're all doing well. It's better for the hobby as it is. They bring people to the community, and when they decide to kind of look outside, we're the ones that they find.
When Games Workshop grows larger, extra nourishment for the industry to feast on.
I mean, speaking of Games Workshop, there's been a slew of new previews and new miniatures, and we'd usually review them on the show, Alex. But we've been so enthralled with your tales and wisdom and your wonderful offerings there. We haven't even talked about it.
Got all those new GW releases lined up for next week for deep probing analysis.
Ooh.
So that's going to be quite a show.
Can I book in my own Kickstarter show?
Yes. Let's preemptively agree to that. If something else exciting happens that week, you may have to share the show.
Okay, before the end of the show, so I'll have to share it with something. Or
I do have a question.
For whom?
So before the end, I have a question for everyone. So think forwards to the future when we're allowed to go to trade shows again. What is everyone's opinion about cosplay at wargaming specific trade shows?
Yes, more of it. It's fun.
I thought that was standard, man. Isn't that
for
standard?
Wargames?
Not for wargames.
Not
You
really.
maybe see
Unless
like
you're
some
cosplaying as a Nazi or something, then no.
or a stormtrooper, like a stormtrooper, a German soldier, or a Napoleonic officer is probably about as good as you're gonna get. But what I'm saying is, like, one of my big dreams since the early days has been to kind of have my Arcworlde stand, but also because obviously, like, I come from a theatre background. I've got tons of mates who love getting dressed up and performing. I was wondering whether it would be quite cool to have some guys dressed as characters from Arcworlde at the stand to kind of interact with the people, because no one else does it at all.
If
you've got thinking, like,
Alex, you're gonna dress us up. Who would you dress us up as? Because you know your world better than anyone. Who would you fit us up as?
Ooh, I think Andy, would you be willing to shave a mustache?
I don't know about that.
Ooh, well, I think if you without the long hair and the beard, I think you'd make quite a good explorer. Like, I think you've got like the kind of the aquiline face for it. So I think that would do really well. Rem, I reckon you would make quite a cool wizard. Like, because not all the wizards. Yeah, because not all the wizards are old men with beards. Like, I can imagine yourself as quite an upcoming hotshot spellcaster.
So I like it. Maybe on a magic carpet, like a young caliph.
That would be sick. That would be really, really cool.
Do you know? I was worried you were gonna make me dress up as a Bayou orc.
No. I think if anyone was to dress up as one of them, I think I would have to do it myself. Lead from the front. I wouldn't want anyone to do anything that I wouldn't do.
Have you got anyone really tall you could dress as the halfling giant, which, as we know, is your next Kickstarter?
I'm not sure. I'm sure I could find someone. It's really interesting because, like, I was thinking about what to do because it'd be quite because seeing as halflings are my number one seller. I was thinking it would be quite fun to have someone stood at the front of the table on their knees with fake feet kind of on their knees. So they're really short. Yeah, because I think it's a lot more ethical than actually hiring people with dwarfism to be halflings. Because I've been to parties where they've done that and it's weird.
I think for your general dress-up thing, I think for larger shows like Salute and Expo, definitely Expo, because it all fits in really well there. Some of the smaller shows you can do it, but like by the time you've paid your mates or whatever. And most of those little shows around schools and stuff, they kind of see you all and be like, "Oh, I'm not having any of that."
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I have all my tutus and stuff going on at smaller shows. I'm just like, nope, nope, nope.
I actually think the post-pandemic world will be the great place for dressing up, more so than in the past, because I think places are going to be a bit less crowded for a while, so there'll be room for all the big beefy costumes that people might get into. Space for them to walk along without knocking everyone over and knocking all the blister packs off the racks. So I think could be onto something here.
And so Alex, you mentioned, look, I mean, I think, and fair point, a lot of people are tightening their belts, but equally, maybe a lot of people have saved a bunch of money and they just want an excuse to spend it. And when the trade shows comes back, it could be a booming time, So if I was to come to one, would I need to bring a lot of money? I mean, my eyes are often bigger than my stomach, so any tips for me?
Just bring your card, Rem.
Bring your card.
Yeah.
Surely everyone's got one of those PayPal machines now.
Yeah, just bring your card. Boop, boop, boop.
Oh,
boop.
absolutely. We've all got cards. We're all in the 21st century at this point.
Not every trader has a card machine. This is a gripe of mine. But anyway.
Why not? You're literally turning money away. But we'll save this rant for another time. But in terms of salute, so since the last
it's more money for us. Oh, your Kickstarter's just gone up. Oh,
has it?
Oh,
I think so. Yeah.
Real time, it just jumped over 6,000.
Yeah, you just hit 6.
How about that? That is all down to the Andy and Rem show, the Andy and Rem effect, care of Remington Steel Industries. How do you feel, Alex? We've tipped the 6,000 ceiling there. How do you feel?
I feel blessed. I feel like I'm a little boy in Bridlington Pier, and I've just put a 2p piece into one of those machines where it goes tick 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 tick, and it's just pushed about 25p's worth of coins into the thing, and I'm absolutely ecstatic.
And I think to celebrate,
I'm happy.
To celebrate, I think we can hear Remington's Arcworlde song, which he is going to perform without any long drawn-out notes that Discord are going to cut off. Let's have a nice, rapid, fast-paced Arcworlde song before we end the show. And after that, don't forget to stick around because we're going to have this week's What the Hell Is That as the show goes off the air.
Ooh.
So, take it away, Remington.
I suggest you guys go to mute just in case any noises may cut me out. Maybe that's what it could do. I don't know. Halfling caravan makes its way to the Arcworlde, A halfling giant makes his way to the caravan. What will happen next in Arcworlde, What will happen next in Arcworlde? It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on a Tuesday night. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We've been talking about Age of Sigmar and Arcworlde and everything else that is cool. We're talking about Bad Squiddo games. It's easy to learn the rules. Do, 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 do.
That came through in very high quality. So anyone
worked.
That was great. Thanks,
top
Rem.
notch.
Welcome. Well, I didn't mention my
Really
fourth $1 million proposal. My $4 million proposal for you, Arcworlde, the musical, with music by Remington Steel.
That's the best one.
You just combined combined literally everything that brings me joy in this world. So other than cinnamon rolls, yeah. Absolutely, let's do a musical.
How about Arcworlde cinnamon rolls?
Ooh.
Done it. I can die a happy man.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring up the episode thumbnail here because I spend hours photoshopping these things, as you can tell by the quality, so you're going to look at it for a little while longer, folks. So before we end the show, I'm going to give the personalised thanks to the lovely patrons who pledge at the specific level to earn themselves personalised thank you at the end. So, special personal thanks to the following people: Cedar, Roshi, Kim, John, Graham, Eric, Brad, Barbara, and Guy. All of you extra spicy supporters of the show. You keep us afloat in these dark times so that we may act as the lighthouse and the lifeboat to rescue the world, rescue those lost hobbyists out there at sea in the troubled waters. We guide them through the fog to the shores of hobby enlightenment. And with that, would everyone like to say goodbye?
Goodbye. Don't forget, what the hell is that?
Yes, don't forget what the hell is that, coming up any second.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. I've had a lovely time on the show. And I would love to come back again when you'll have me.
Yay,
Come back.
you've been
Just
a delight.
make sure you find them out of print halflings for me, and we'll warm your seat for you on this show always.
Splendid. I'll see what I can do. See if I can pull a few strings to get those to you on the black market.
Okay, everybody, keep your eyes peeled, because coming up during the outro, what the hell is that? And if you're going to guess, make sure you leave it in the comments after the show, not in the live chat, because that won't count. So, all that remains to be said.
The prize is a year's free subscription to Bad Squiddo Games. About that.
What are you subscribing to exactly? So a year's subscription to Bad Squiddo Games website, so you can look at it and browse it at your leisure for a whole year.
Yeah.
You can't buy that.
Yeah.
You can't buy that.
Exactly.
Precisely. So, with that, all that remains to be said is, other than check out what the hell is that, coming up in about 10 seconds, good night out there. Whatever you...
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigmar's beard or Neferata's hat? Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? Is it a mangled squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know.